HIMARS, crabs, leopards, patriots, SAMP-T, and dozens, if not hundreds, of other types of weaponry. All this equipment arrived in Ukraine after the start of the full-scale aggression with a single goal: to drive the enemy out of our homeland. On the Ukrainian front, almost all the best types of weaponry in the world have gathered, both Western and domestic. Today, however, we want to focus specifically on the Czech multiple launch rocket system, the RM-70 Vampire, especially since this MLRS is held in high regard even by Zaluzhny himself. So let's find out why the commander-in-chief of the Ukrainian armed forces is so fond of it and how it has proven itself on the front lines. Spoiler, just hearing its name makes the occupiers' knees shake.
In Ukraine, a whole stratum of bloodsuckers has formed.
This infamous quote from Mykola Azarov has turned out to be prophetic for our defenders, because now there really is a layer of vampire bloodsuckers in Ukraine, and they are focused solely on destroying the enemy. The occupiers on the left bank of the Dnipro were among the latest to feel this pain firsthand. Subtitles by Dima. As you. The 120 kg RM-70 Vampire MLRS covered Ukrainian defenders during their raid on the left bank a few weeks ago. After the intense rocket barrage, the Ukrainian armed forces gained a foothold on the enemy bank and forced the occupiers to flee. At that time, the Rashists tried to cover up their failure and began claiming that the occupiers had repelled the attack. But that wasn't the case at all. Ukrainian armed forces landed on the left bank, conducted a successful operation under cover of the Vampire, and captured many enemy AT personnel.
Prisoner. Another. One. A Glacier 10. Prisoner. Battalion Commander Dan.
So what exactly is this remarkable Czech engineering marvel, after encountering which the tongues of Rashist commanders are magically loosened?
Beast.
It's a beast, really a beast of a machine. When you fire a full salvo, the impression is just wow, amazing.
The story of this multiple launch rocket system began back in the distant 1960s in Czechoslovakia. At first glance, the RM-70 seems like just a variant of the Soviet Grad. However, even back then, let alone with the new Vampire modification, it turned out to be much more interesting than its Soviet big brother. First and foremost, this was because of the chassis. The designers threw the Ural 375, which the Grad is mounted on, onto the scrap heap of history, and instead put their MLRS on the Tatra 813, which has an 8x8 platform. Thanks to this, the vehicle's payload capacity became twice as much compared to its Soviet predecessor. But most importantly, the Tatra made it possible to place an additional ammunition load on the vehicle, an entire 40 rockets. The system was adopted by Czechoslovakia in 1972 and instantly won the hearts of many military personnel. A vivid proof of this is the countries of the Warsaw Pact, most of which wanted to have the brand new MLRS in their own armies as well. The RM-70 was quickly sold around the world. However, any weapon system needs to evolve in order to remain of interest. That's why, after the dissolution of Czechoslovakia, the Czech company Excalibur Army took over the stewardship of the Vampire. She made the RM-70 even better. There were several modifications, but let's focus on the gem of this collection, the RM-70 Vampire. It is this system that, since May of last year, has repeatedly kept the occupiers on edge.
We get assigned a target, I check on the tablet to see from where we can reach it, we get ready and head out. When we arrive, we set up and take aim. 3 or 4 minutes and we're ready, just waiting for the command.
The modernized MLRS Vampire was equipped with an essential component of 21st century artillery, a digital fire control system. In other words, the computer instantly handles all the routine tasks for the soldiers. Simply put, Western equipment knows where to shoot on its own. In this way, the MLRS receives intelligence data on enemy positions, moves to a firing point, fires, and then returns to fortified positions. The whole process takes just 5 to 7 minutes.
This is a huge advantage, Anat. It's a significant advantage over the Soviet grad systems. Because now, even when our battery commander or senior battery officer has the Krapiva system, he still has to use a standard artillery instrument like the same compass. And the same manual aiming procedure. This takes time, whereas a vehicle with positioning and a computerized targeting system has a significant advantage.
In terms of operation, it has a big advantage. Also, Czech equipment is very rapid firing, which also saves time. The REM-70 Vampire fires 40 rockets in 20 seconds. Believe me, that's extremely fast. But that's not all. The highlight of this MLRS, as we mentioned earlier, is rightfully considered to be the additional ammunition load and rapid reloading. So, while the Soviet grad has to change position after firing at a target, wait for a truck to bring more rockets, and then spend another hour loading them, the Czech MLRS only needs 2 minutes to reload. At the same time, the vehicle does everything automatically. So, in less than 3 minutes, the Vampire can fire 80 rockets and drive away. The Russian grads can only dream of something like that.
Quick reloading, and we can keep working. This really speeds up the time it takes to complete a mission.
Our headquarters constantly reports that our hits are good and the visibility of our combat missions is excellent. We almost always hit the target. Of course, it also depends on the type of shells.
And the Czech MLRS can operate with several types of shells. You can use both Soviet and Czech rockets. It all depends on the target. There are munitions with a range of 10 kilometers, and there are some for 15 or even 20. The Czech developers of the Vampire also took care of crew safety. The combat vehicle has an enhanced level of armor. For the MLRS, which houses a crew of 4, neither bursts of automatic fire nor even artillery shrapnel are a threat. And if the vehicle catches fire, it is equipped with a fire suppression system.
It also has air suspension, and its off-road capability is much greater. Plus, it's comfortable. Comfort is very important. Everywhere. Plus, it's comfortable. The cab is armored. The cab is armored, and so much so that the doors are very heavy. They installed hydraulics here to help open the doors, and here they installed hydraulics, which helps remove the door. Well, plus, there are air conditioners, climate control, and an automatic transmission. Air conditioners, climate control, and heating. There are even cameras installed. You can see where you're going.
Ukrainian defenders are handling the Czech Vampires perfectly, in particular because it's basically the same as the Grad, only better. Of course, it's silly to compare these two types of weapons. It's like comparing a Russian Lada to a German Mercedes. But the principle is still the same. If you've driven a Lada, you'll handle a Mercedes even more easily. In skilled Ukrainian hands, the Mercedes, the RM-70 Vampire, is irreplaceable. Legends tell of how fast the Ukrainian armed forces master new equipment. Americans and Europeans can only marvel at the speed and eagerness to learn with which our defenders grasp the basics of military affairs. As for us, all we can do is admire the Ukrainian heroes and share stories of their ever-growing feats. We'll tell you even more about the latest weapons being used on the front against the Russians in our upcoming episodes. So make sure to like this video and don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you won't miss new episodes of Arsenal.